curious, what is the goal and agenda of these community calls?
Yeah, so the goal is just to give an update to the community, and even if the attendance isn't very high, at least it's recorded so anyone who wants can check the video. I post them on YouTube every month. Today on the agenda, we have the Solana Summit in Kuala Lumpur that Nalok and Prof attended. So maybe they want to share like what happened there, if they made some interesting connections. It was also, I think June was the end of the benevolent dictator for 3 months. So it would be good to hear a retrospective on that. There was a funding proposal that passed, and Prophet is currently raising, so maybe he wants to share an update on that. There is the partner proposal on Future Key as a service. I think one passed and one failed for Drift, so I would love to hear your take on that, Big Z. For me, it's show that it's working as intended. Anyway, I'll not get into that right now. There is also one pass, one failed for Dean, I think, and for Future. Maybe, and I don't know if people want to comment on that. They are not here. And also general question about what's the state of FAS from development perspective, how they are going to build a core team, where they are going after Kuala Lumpur. I think Prophet has flown and Nalok too. So want to ask that, and if they are going to maintain DAO in August. And any question also that people want to ask, they can come. Oh, I see Prophet. All right, perfect. So yeah, that's just the goal. And hey, Prophet, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Well, we can start then.
Continue on.
So I was just reading the agenda. So let's get into it. How was Solana Summit in Kuala Lumpur?
It was good. Yeah, we got to meet a lot of people. It was good to meet the Sanctum team and the Flash team and talk to them about the decision markets and FutureP. I don't know, Colin, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting to hear about APAC, how fractured the ecosystems are, what penetrating the markets look like, who's building, what are they building, what's Jupe think about local developer talent, what does Jupe think about how they hire and staff engineers. It was good to put FaceTime with Nicholas from Solana FM, Jiong from Jupiter, Soju from Jupiter, see what Super Team Malaysia is up to. Get a sense of who's working in the space over there. I think that was really my big takeaway from a lot of it was, how amenable the government seemed from Malaysia, which was really kind of cool. I mean, they were at every after party, every party. That was pretty cool. And then they set up meetings with their consultancy arm or the consultants that they work with to say, here's how you can start a business in Malaysia. The SEC met with the group, which I thought was pretty cool, to sit down and say, here's the path towards licensure, here's how many licenses we're giving out, here's the things we think about. So I think that was quite encouraging. And then just the knowledge of, if you want to penetrate Korea, you got to have people in Korea, boots on the ground, in Japan, so on and so forth.
When you say the government was here, what do you mean by that?
The agency that's responsible for expanding the digital economy, it's called MDAC. They came to the conference. They came to both conferences, Solana Village and Solana Summit, and they were there meeting with people, talking to people about how to get approval for visas, how to get businesses structured, what the tax advantages are for Web3, blockchain, and artificial intelligence companies. The SEC came, one of the representatives of the SEC in Malaysia came and discussed their licensure program, how they work. So it's a small agency that's under a larger agency, but they were there, boots on the ground.
Nice. And are you still in Kuala Lumpur now? Both of you? Or planning to go back?
No, I'm in Virginia.
I'm in San Francisco.
Okay. And why did you flow away?
Well, the visa expired.
Yeah,
we get 90 days.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of location, maybe I'll just touch on this. Just as like conversation kind of material. Yeah, so the places that we're considering right now, I would say are like Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, San Francisco. I don't know, Colin, would you add anything to that list? I guess just like Asia broadly, like possibly Korea, but we haven't really thought about that.
Yeah, no, that's probably the short list. Unfortunately,
and the reason for
tell me on New York yet.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't want to go to New York because Big Z's in New York. Yeah, my I'm not on I'm not modifying my voice today, so yeah. Because I'm on a different computer. But yeah, so the reason that for that is, well, New York does have all the capital in crypto, which is helpful. At least like the most of it. But San Francisco, as like we all kind of know, we're here building for more long term than a typical crypto project. And I think the crypto native talent base tends to be like very short term oriented. This is not everyone. It's just like something I've observed. Like wanting to get tokens and then sell within like 3 to 9 months when a bull market happens, and then retire. And I think like the Silicon Valley style way of doing things, of like, yeah, building products that are useful over the long term, where people can understand that it can take like 10 years to build a strong business. I prefer that. And the highest concentration of people who are like that, of long term oriented and hardworking and highly skilled, is San Francisco still. Obviously, like, yeah, I mean, I'm bearish on the US. I think a lot of people are. But even if you're bearish, it's still like the best place today. And then for San Francisco, I mean, sorry, for Singapore, it essentially be regulation, and Kuala Lumpur, like similar. The difference between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur is a lot cheaper, and Singapore is like more developed, and has a stronger community for crypto.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks for that. Can you also tell us what's going to happen now that the benevolent dictator ended? How do you see the 3 months term? You have a retrospective on that?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a failure, but I wouldn't consider it a success either, given that like obviously me and Colin still have like a decent amount of power. I mean, I think we're probably less DAO theatery than like a typical DAO. Uh, because, well, for one, like here the DAO actually owns the legal, like it has legal rights over the everything that we've built. So like today, if the DAO, yeah, voted or traded. Wow, I just said vote. If it traded to like remove me and Alec and to take ownership over like the code, it could like sue Colin, for example, to get ownership over that, which is not possible with a typical DAO. But still, a lot of like the assets are kept in like a multi-sig today. So yeah, I think we just need to start rolling out optimistic governance, which was going to solve a lot of these issues. It's just like, yeah, haven't had the time given the fundraise, or maybe I should just be more effective. That's probably what it should be.
Nice. I just invited everybody, since there is not a lot of people. If you have any question regarding what we just ask. Okay, and so
And also, yeah, I feel just since there's like 10 people here, if I think this is like probably more like a conversation. So if anyone, like for example, if I'm talking about location and you have an idea, you're like, ah, nah, Singapore's trash. Literally, you can say those words. Like that's fine. Just like, yeah, say it if you want. We
yeah,
can talk about
that would be great to hear some people their thoughts. Yeah, sorry. I wanted also to ask. So now with the funding proposal, right? Can you first remind us what was the proposal substance, and then explain if the direction is to move more toward building Futurity as a service, kind of like a Silicon Valley startup with a core team and a clearly defined role, and the scope, the length, kind of along these lines.
Sure. Yeah. So fundraise, we're raising 1.5 million at the spot price. So yeah, the people who invest in the raise are going to get the same price that anyone can get in the spot market. There's no discount, and there's also no lockup. So for them, it is just like buying from the spot market, except for you don't have price impact, which allows them to deploy size. And the benefit for us is obviously we get capital that we can like use to build out the core protocol. And yeah, in terms of how we're building it, I mean, I think I started thinking about this in like we're going to build in like a very decentralized way. Like people are going to come in, they're going to work on something for a month, and then they'll move on to the next. Um, and yeah, I think it's not. I mean, what we've kind of learned is that that's hard. Like, there's a lot of transaction costs involved. A, you've got to like evaluate the person, and then B, they may be working on other stuff in the interim, and like you've got to make sure your timelines line up. Like for example, so after the proposal passed in February, I don't know, Colin, when was it until like we had like everyone fully working on the project?
I think 4 weeks. You had 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that to me is unacceptable. So unacceptable is in like, yeah, we shouldn't have to. We should be able to. Okay, we're working on this. The next day, we get people working on this, or that day, because yeah, this is like very early stage. It requires its default failure, right? Like building anything uh, amazing in an early stage like requires risk, and to minimize the chance of that risk, like you gotta, at least what I've observed is that you've got to like, yeah, just execute really well, execute fast, and so that you can execute fast so that you can test out what works and then pivot for like things that don't. Um, and so yeah, I guess I'm currently thinking like, yeah, we hire full-time contributors, and yeah, they get like a percentage of the token supply and the same kind of deal that Colin and I got.
And I'll just speak to, I think that there's a realm where you do have community contribution, which is important. I think what you have to do is you have to have management overhead to do that, so that you can delegate and then have responsible parties for, like that being a key component of their role. So you say, hey, community has put this forth. You've got to evaluate the code. You've got to, make sure that it's ready, provide any feedback. And then I also think that there's a realm for bounties, just like bug bounties currently exist, that you could say, this is a feature we'd like. It has no urgency in it, but if we got it done, it'd be amazing. And here's the cost that we're willing to pay to get something like that done. It just harkens back to, you have a large management overhead, so you've got to be able to effectively do that to be able to include it. And so staff is one way to do that, and then making sure somebody's getting paid to do that is the important bit. So I think that there's an amalgamation across this that affords everything that we could want, hope, dream, and desire for.
So do you think we'll reach a state where there is some hybrid between what the team build and what the, like, for example, could there be a proposal to fund a grant committee? Because, for example, I think it was Staipan who made a Discord bot, but it's not actively maintained. But if the scope of what the Discord bot must do is pretty simple, maybe it's something that committee members could do. Or like the other day, there was a discussion about how to better surface the TWAP to how much the price should move for the TWAP to be at a certain price after a certain time, right? So I don't really know if it's like a too big task to be done by contributors, because auditing it would take time to the team anyway or not. But do you think we could reach a state like that where like the core fast things are made by the team, but community is still building some stuff?
Yeah, I think what it would be is like the community. I don't think someone who's not full time can ever like maintain something. So like the Discord bot is an example. What would work instead is you've got, okay, yeah, like for example, I currently maintain the smart contracts. Anyone could file PRs to that, and that's totally okay because they contribute, but also like I'm making sure that that stays live, that those like updates work, and so that's fine. And then obviously like for one-off stuff, it also makes sense. Like the competition we ran, I think that was great. If we had tried to hire designers to do that, we never would have gotten like the quality I think that we got.
Yeah, and just to harken back, you need somebody that's the maintainer, and I think that that's the key. So once you have a maintainer, then you can have opinions, then you can have like what's required, and that maintainer may have strict requirements for being able to do it, and then timelines for review, etc. So I think that that's the key thing right there. You hit the nail on the head, and once you have that, then yeah, there's no question of like, are these good ideas? Absolutely. It's a matter of like, are you going to be there 24/7 if this crashes the front end to be able to support it? And that's the hang up with a lot of this stuff right now, which is fine. This will get smoothed over. This will be massaged. This will get better. It's just where the stage we're in right now with it.
Okay. Big Z, you said DevRel. What do you mean by that? Like, you mean DevRel should be from the... I didn't understand in the chat.
Oh, I guess I was just bringing up like core team versus external contributors. You usually need some, like, I guess Nalik or Prophet was saying something about like having a point person who's like interfacing with the community and like at least like helping them contribute, or like scoping out how they can contribute without wasting time on an opinion that the maintainer probably like isn't going to put like accept your PR for. I feel like the worst thing that can happen is someone is intrigued by MetaDAO, they submit a PR, and then the PR is ignored, or the like if a GitHub issue is ignored, like basically someone's like attempting to get involved and maybe they're good, and like there's nobody there to really like give them feedback or kind of guide them into how they can help. Um, so like having a point person or like a DevRel person, even if it is like somebody already in that core team, like having their job be to manage or service those incoming requests, I think is really important if you still want the community element.
Yeah, makes sense. For now, I guess it's been one of the many out of Nalok, but at some point, probably it's gonna be someone. Do you want to say one last thing about the fundraising proposal, like how it's going? Or maybe I don't realize how much these things are private until they can be announced or not. Before we move on to.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I mean, I obviously can't. I mean, I don't want to give out specific names, just like because I don't know if they want me to. But yeah, the round is a little more than a third closed, so we've got like 500K to 600K in commits, depending on how much money we want to take from individual angels. And I'm really happy about the angel side. I mean, literally the best people I could have asked for. I mean, yeah, I guess I can name names of angels. Yeah, so we've got. Let me pull up my spreadsheet actually. I don't want to miss anyone. Yeah, Big Z, you're on there, right? Right?
I don't think we've talked numbers, but yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah. I mean, with a lot of these, I haven't talked numbers. But probably like half of them is committed to a specific number. Yeah. So Anatoly, Mert, Stepan from Squads, Eugene Chen from Ellipsis, Rooter, possibly Nope, both from Solan, Bridges from Symmetry, Whiskey Titan, who's the CEO of Baxis, Evan, who you guys know is Legalize Indian Futures, the Margin Research, Big V, Nico, Akshay BD of Solana Foundation, and then yeah, Edgar of like I guess now Batchex and Barrett and Burger Bob. So yeah,
Nice. That's pretty
awesome
sick.
people who I all respect. Yeah,
That's cool. Cool.
I mean, I think on the fun side has been, I mean, uh, yeah, I don't know why no one told me that it would be hard to raise money in July because people would be on vacation. No one told me this. But yeah, a lot of people are on vacation right now. We have like one fund that's theoretically on board and would probably possibly like fill out the rest of the round, but still going through the process there. We'll see where that lands. And then yeah, like a few more funds that we've gotten like callbacks to. But yeah, I think it's all just about like locking down a fund that wants to take the rest.
Nice. Got a beautiful list of angels indeed. Um, do you sell now Futarkey? If you were to convince somebody, would you like pitch a governance platform, or would you pitch more like something a kind of poly market, like an exchange or a pricing decision or something?
Yeah, I think I may have sent the deck to Discord, but I can resend it. Essentially, poly market. I don't use the word governance. I also don't use the word futarchy in any of the calls. I talk about decision making. Like very briefly, yeah, the pitch is like first I go over me and Alex backgrounds, and then I say like our thesis is that the world's decisions can be made with markets as opposed to how they're being made today. And we're building the first decision market platform to allow for that. And then I like pause and then see if that makes sense, and then walk through like what a decision market is. And then I walk through like the traction we've gotten today. So like I think 22 proposals, 4,500 trades, number of DAOs, the fact that we have drift. And then I walk through like, what kind of customers we want to target very early, which is DeFi, DePIN, and meme coins. And I walk through like why that's the case. And then what would be like the next best, like the customer that we want to go after after crypto, which currently we're thinking activist funds and M&A firms are like the two that would be most inclined to use something like this.
Okay, that's. Do we want to talk about the proposal that happened like the
and
past month?
I mean,
sorry.
On the sure. Just one more thing to add. So like the goal is still very much futarchy. The goal is having governments where markets are electing, like choosing what policies are made, and all that jazz. It's just like how do we get it to a state where VC can kind of like grok it and pattern match to like, oh, okay, this is like B2B enterprise software. Okay, this helps them with their decision making. So that you can raise money and then keep the game on the field.
Okay.
If can I ask just really quick, if you pitch it like it's helping decision making, like do these conditional markets kind of break down a little bit if there's less, if like the market doesn't have confidence that the market that passes is going to lead to the decision? Like, does it kind of break down if you just take it away from actually making the decision and more just like informing the decision?
It may actually help, because like, yeah, we have this kind of, I guess, problem today where in a future, you know, like what's going to pass and what's going to fail most likely. And so if, yeah, if the if the pass market, if it looks extremely likely to pass, then the fail market kind of becomes meaningless. Like people will just trade, like this is historically what's actually happened. People have just traded at whatever prices in the fail market because they know all those trades like don't matter because they're going to get reverted, and the fail tokens are all going to go to zero. Whereas with a decision market where it's still like someone else that makes the decision, then the market doesn't know exactly which market is going to be finalized, and so you have an incentive to price correctly in both markets, which allows you to kind of like understand how much value a given proposal actually brings.
I see. That actually, I think that makes sense actually. What are the drawbacks though? Have you thought about that?
Well, the main drawback is obviously it's like less ambitious, and it's also, I mean, I think the majority of the value comes. Well, actually, to answer your question, because I think your answer is more like technical drawbacks. I don't see any. It's actually, and it's easier on the code side, right? Like we don't have to use autocrat. We just have to. I mean, we'll have to create something, but yeah, we just have to run like conditional markets.
Maybe autocrat is one of the multi-sig signers, and then you have like a 2 out of 3. I don't know.
Yeah. You mean
autocrat will always like, yeah, like, you know, you have like 2 people, you and Nalik, and then autocrat, and it's 2 out of 3 is what finalizes. So autocrat's always going to pick the higher price, and then you and like you two are, you know, you see other variables, and if you both agree, you can override autocrat. Like something like that could be neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to talk
what we were
about...
originally thinking is, yeah, like
Sorry.
we would have a multi-sig. Yeah, you're good. I know it's like difficult because of the latency to kind of like.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would have a multi-sig that has money in it, and then like a squad's multi-sig, and then the DAO would be the config authority, so it could like remove us and can also place spending limits, so we can't like run off with the DAO's money. But then there's some technical limitation with that, where essentially like the problem we want to solve is not just that we could run off with the DAO's money, but that like some malicious like person could run off, like could get a proposal through and run off with the DAO's money. And squads, yeah, there's some like technical issue that prevents it from. Essentially, you have to give all power to the DAO, and then it can run off with the money. Yeah, Nico, I think you're asking something.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if we were going to talk about the different proposals from our partners, that other futurarchies, I mean, that happened last month. We can ask Big Z about the drift one, like one pass and one fail, and the one who failed, I don't know, I'm curious to hear you guys' takes, but for me, if it was an arbitrary proposal that people voted on, I'm sure it would have passed, even if they asked for 500k maybe. But with futurarchy 50k, it didn't, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm also curious. I want you guys to confirm or deny if the meta for trading futarchy is what I say it is. So right now, I think the meta to trade these markets is to just sell pass sell the fail market and have fail traded at a discount to spot price if you want the proposal to pass. It's way cheaper, I guess, like especially if fail gets reverted. All the trades in fail get reverted, like you basically suffer no P&L, and the proposal goes through if nobody vehemently disagrees. I think with this most recent proposal, Artemis, which is like a DeFi llama kind of thing, they know our team and reached out about some sort of deal with like getting data integrated with them. And we just asked them, like, can you go to futarchy, ask for whatever you want, we'll read, we'll help you. Nalik was also very supportive of that. And the team tried it out, but at the same time, the team was like, we're not even going to trade this proposal because I think they just didn't they asked and learned all about futarchy, but then they decided that they weren't going to trade it and they were going to let Drift and other communities decide. And I think what people noticed was like just there's like a lot of apathy around it. Like nobody seemed to really be for it or against it like super harshly. And I think because of that, like there's not enough interest to get a proposal passed. Like the market will fail. Like the TWAPs won't be significantly different enough for pass. So I think that's just like, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I think the volume was like roughly the same as the previous proposal in the like sub 10,000 notional, but yeah, this one didn't pass. Whereas the first one, which was just like, hey, let's give a couple drift tokens to minted out people and incentivize passing proposals going forward, kind of like just small amounts, but just for fun. Like nobody like that proposal passed, whereas this one did not.
Yeah, I agree with you on the meta as much as it like pains me because it's not obviously if people are doing that, it's not like a perfectly efficient market but I think I probably do that too, maybe subconsciously. I'm just like I want it to pass, I'll sell fail if it passes. I'm essentially betting on enough people like going with me.
I was also going to say that, like, like this is probably a good opportunity to experiment and see if it's the price point that's more like the issue here, right? Like, I mean, it's hard to speculate, but certainly could be that this seemed overly priced for what was to be delivered, and that could just be market expectation with it. So yeah, I think the other thing I would encourage people to do is that just because a proposal fails doesn't mean you can't go back to the drawing board and make some adjustments or tweaks and solicit feedback from it. But broadly, maybe more governance grants that we think should, like are just part of the status quo are actually overpriced at the current implementation, and the markets may just flatly reject them based on what they are.
Yeah, I guess I didn't give all the context of the discussion, which hilariously was scattered about, and a lot of people couldn't find like context and discussion on the proposal, which is another thing I think UI could really help with. The other thing is like just trading these markets, even through the UI improvements that you guys have done and the new program deploy, like it's still like really painful for people to like grasp, even if they're decently intelligent, right? The liquidity isn't great. It's a lot of like cumbersome signing transactions, right? Like your intentions aren't like without a limit order, it's kind of hard to do any size. So I think that plays a role too. And then the team that did the proposal, they actually got a lot of good feedback from their partners. So they've heard like, they've seen futarchy on Twitter. They think it's cool, right? And they saw Artemis was doing something around it, and they just thought like, okay, Artemis is like on top of this. That's cool for them. So the Artemis team was telling us like they got a lot of positive stuff from their partners just for being involved in futarchy, which I thought was just a really good sign, even if the proposal doesn't pass. It just like I think people are aware that this is like a new cool thing in crypto, and it's kind of like really just in Solana right now. Doesn't have to be, but it just is. And yeah, I think that was really encouraging to see.
That is cool. I don't know. I personally like my two sats on this is like proposal probably should have passed. It's kind of cool that it didn't because this is a proposal that definitely would have passed with like a grants committee because like they already know the drift team, and so like there's the kind of like not politics but just like yeah, if you know the people, then like generally those proposals pass. That's at least what I saw in DeFi. Even if like it's a bad proposal, in this case I think it was a good proposal. But yeah, I just think we need to run like the decision markets. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, Big Z. Like, I think the decision markets just can't be on drift token. They need to be like this financial contract pays out relative to like how effective drift sees the grant in like 3 months or 6 months, and then people like bet on how like you guys are going to rate it out of 5 or something, and then so essentially betting on the future effectiveness of the grant, and then it's like done based on that.
Yeah, I think that adds a lot of subjectivity though. Like I agree, if you have perfect measurements, like let's increase GDP or let's increase happiness, right? Like those are cool
Right.
things to optimize for, but they're impossible to measure, and there's always going to be like the corruption seeping through. Whereas token go up is like I mean, it's really noisy too, but I feel like it's like very easy to measure.
Well, in this case, we'd be optimizing for the happiness of the drift team. We'd be optimizing for Big Z Udall.
Big Z Udals. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like something you can do around, like, I guess everything's so instantaneous in those decision markets. It's like token price right now, later, like I either get in or out at this price like right now. And I wonder if there's more like long-term things you could do. Like, let's say Artemis built this thing, like, I mean, there's no controlled experiment, but it's like, did it increase the value of the token over some like super long time horizon? Right? Like even a minuscule amount, like does it add value to the project? Which, that's different than the token too. Like I just wish there was like, you could do more of that, but I don't know how to measure that.
Yeah. Well, actually, how would this value, like, yeah, this data dashboard, like, how would it have driven Drift's business forward? Like, would it have translated into additional perps volume?
I guess I'm just regurgitating their proposal. These are not my beliefs
Sure.
necessarily,
Sure.
but they said that they have a lot of partners that want to see the, like, a little past the top level stats on Drift in order to evaluate how valuable Drift is. And they want like comparative stats against other projects that are doing similar things to Drift. And it's basically like they were pitching, like, if we have all this information, historical information and live information, a little bit more detailed, like your fundamental value, like your token's fundamental value, or at least relative value to other projects in the space, could improve. So like that was kind of the pitch.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. So then, I feel like the market actually is a good, like just the token price is a good indicator here. Essentially, the market said no. I mean, the market is like small. I agree with you. Like, I think we need to get the market bigger. But if that's the core pitch, then I actually think like their goal was to get token to go up, and the market, which is imperfect, said that token wouldn't go up.
For me, the question is, what would it have take to have this proposal pass? Like, would you have passed if there was more details, or maybe some sketches about how the interface would look like, or maybe if the price was half of what was proposed, or like if they took the time to educate a bit more the community or the market on what they did before, and like I don't know, and we cannot run a simulation, even though with Utility as a service and more proposal and more DAOs, we'll see what tend to make proposal pass or not. So I don't know if it was a problem about price or a problem about people not knowing specifically how much value it would accrue. What I've observed talking with people is that when they vote, they used to approve anything that they thought was positive for the DAO, but without really taking into consideration cost. And now when they trade it, they try to think, will it bring more value than it costs, which is a different kind of mental shift. And a lot of people are hesitant because they don't really know yet how to determine that. And that's maybe also the reason we see a lot of people follow, but not that many people trade, because when you don't really know, you should probably not be trading. So I would be very curious. Do you know if they plan to repropose that proposal with some edits, or they're just not gonna?
I do think they still want to do something with us, or not us, but Drift. I do think they want to have something. Like they don't want to just give up. Like they're not disheartened by this, if that makes sense. So I think they're going to continue. Yeah, they're going to continue doing something. I don't know what it's going to look like, but something might come. I think I said this earlier, but I think largely because their team didn't want to be they didn't want to trade this. Like they basically didn't want to advocate for themselves in the market. Like the sheer apathy of like people not really thinking this is going to be valuable, at least to the point that I need to put up some stake. Like there was basically nobody who tried to get this to pass. If I just look at the price chart, there was nobody trading it in an attempt to pass beyond maybe a single place in the chart. And that doesn't necessarily mean if they tried that it would have worked, because it's like there's all these iceberg orders per se. Like maybe if Artemis tried to make it pass, like a lot more trading activity would come when people see it like not going the way that they would want it to. And because Futarchy is like so complicated right now, I hate to keep harping that to us. you're only going to get a small amount of people who realistically are going to show their opinion. And ideally, that's a good set of people, but it's really hard to state your intention in the futarchy markets and not waste a ton of time, right? Like just monitoring the market on a UI. So yeah, it's just, I think you need an advocate for every proposal. Like, especially the proposer is usually the advocate. Like they're usually going to trade such that the proposal will pass. And in this case, that wasn't happening.
Why didn't they want to trade?
I'm not sure exactly. I think part of it is also just like maybe it was a combination of like reputation / like legal confusion, or I don't know. I think they just didn't want to make a mistake or do something that looked bad, quote unquote. Like they kind of just wanted to let the community take the wheel. So it's like no onus is on them. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Pantera traded. I mean, Pantera traded their proposal. Of course, it didn't work, and yeah, I mean, I guess I actually didn't know that until like a few days ago. So maybe that's not a good example because people didn't figure it out. But yeah, I was talking to them because of the fundraise, and yeah, they told me that they were trading the proposal. They were trying to make it pass.
Yeah,
But
me,
yeah, I don't know how that would look.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Nico.
Do you think it's okay for people who make proposal to trade them? I think for me there is no problem with that. Futarchy is resistant to that.
Oh, totally.
So then it would have been great to see maybe them traded it, but I completely understand. Don't want to have any third or bad reputation by people who think that this is bad. But I think it should be okay. Maybe we can do a better job at explaining that it's normal that proposers trade their proposals.
Well, I would say only if proposers are good traders should they trade their proposals. Because like in theory here, right, they should know that they, like internally, just like you have insider information, not that it's insider information, but you yourself are speculating that this is going to increase the price. Otherwise, you wouldn't have put the proposal up. So you're probably willing to pay a premium for Drift because you have a forecast price for Drift that you're like, oh, it's cheap now, and I know that if I deliver on this, this is going to drive the price up. So you're probably willing to take at least in theory, you'd be willing to take on inventory for a future date. And so you'd have a future price in mind. Now, whether you have enough capital to do that or enough to exhaust it, and enough conviction for that, but there's still probably a small price premium that you're willing to pay, whether it's a fraction of a cent or whatever, and you can probably get that there. But
yeah,
you should be building a proposal that's like driving that initiative forward. And I think that's the other thing is that we just don't have a lot of experimentation and understanding of like what does it take to draft a futarchic proposal versus what does it take to draft a normal proposal that we've seen time and time again that just gets through governance voting. So I think that there's an important distinction here, and I think we can work to workshop it, and we can go back through other examples and like even our suggested formatting for it. I know that this was kind of late strung together on my part, and I unfortunately didn't have the time to go through everything as I normally would to get this drafted in a conducive way. But yeah, I'm quite encouraged by it, and I don't want anybody to be discouraged. And I know that we've talked to Big Z and some other people about getting a Twitter Spaces going on like failed proposals are a good thing, and we probably just need to go back and figure out what could make this pass. I know Profits talked about that quite a bit, about different dilution numbers, and with this fundraise, if we diluted more, would it likely go through the proposal? And we're thinking about that even before you put a proposal up, right? Like, is this palatable to the market? So I think that's
Yeah.
an interesting way to think about this stuff too.
I think if we tried to ask for like 40%, the proposal would have failed, for example.
And even thinking about that, right, where you're like, okay, well, maybe what I do is break this up instead of a 12-month thing, break this up to a 6-month thing. How are we going to think about that? Let's do a lesser price. Think about some milestones and some accomplishments here. How does this drive back to token price? And I think you probably come up with a better proposal that may be more or had the capacity to be speculatively traded. But that's just my thoughts on some of this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want anybody to lose the wind in their sails for rejected proposals, because I think that there's still a ton of opportunity to go and reshape them.
Yeah, on that, I think quantification is like going to be necessary going forward, including for us. Like maybe proposal should have this increases the probability of Drift success, like as a project, by 10 basis points or 1% or 10%. This increases the value of Drift by 20 million, which according to Drift's like total supply is an increase of like 2% in token value, or like things like that that actually quantify it so the market can kind of trade on that.
Might be a bit far-fetched, but
Like how much?
yeah, sorry.
Well, I mean, that's essentially what we're evaluating whenever you make a decision. It's just that we don't normally like do the work of like actually quantifying it. Of course, like here,
Like
there's a
sell
good
side analysts.
yeah. I mean, there's a good. Well, no, I just mean in any decision. Like in any decision, you're just trying to evaluate what's the expected value of it of this thing if I did go, and what's the expected value if I didn't do this thing. And like there's this good quote from Less Wrong that I love, which is it's better to pull numbers out of your ass and then use those numbers to make the decision rather than pull a decision out of your ass. Because like those numbers you can generally, like for example with this proposal, yeah, like it'd be pretty crazy if they said this is going to increase the value of Drift by double. It's going to double the price. And it also yeah, so like there's kind of bounds that you can put on numbers and like rough guesstimations. Obviously, like no one's going to be able to predict perfectly, but yeah, that's okay. Anyway, one more proposal I want to talk about before we come up to a close, because I know we got 4 minutes left, is the Dean's List proposal. So yeah, as some of you guys know, Dean's List, they had a proposal that looked like it was going to pass. The pass price was consistently higher than the fail price, but this guy figured out, like, yeah, we weren't cranking the TWAP oracles. This guy figured that out, and he bought a bunch in the fail market, where like the fail market, people had sold so much in the fail market. Like this one guy sold his whole Dean stack. He sold like 1% of the supply in the fail market just because he wanted it to pass. And then this guy figured that out, and he bought at really cheap prices in the fail market, and then cranked the fail market TWAP, and then got the proposal essentially to fail, and extracted about $4,000 or so from those people by like dumping the Dean on the pass market. I mean, sorry, dumping the Dean in the spot market after that he bought for really cheap prices. And so yeah, we I think like at the time, definitely some team members were kind of pissed about that, and that was definitely on us. Like we should have been cranking that market. But yeah, so as resolution, we refunded them. We like bought some Dean, just like $4,000 worth to like be able to compensate everyone, and we sent it all to them. And we also now are running a cranker, so this will never happen again. And yeah, we put up the retrospective. So yeah, I think it was like, and then after that, actually, if you go through like the Dean Discord, I think they were like very, very happy with the resolution. Like if anything, it kind of made them more bullish on just like us and Futarchy. Like they were just like really happy that we cared enough to do that. So yeah, here I can actually send a link to the channel right now if anyone wants to like scroll up and see. Hog solves this. Yeah, Hog doesn't. That's what we should call the cranker.
Nice. So you have to go right now, right, Prophet?
I mean, I don't have to, but I feel like it's generally a good idea to close the meetings on time.
Yeah, I agree. But I would just want to ask if anybody wanted to ask something in particular. 10K, you or anyone,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and then we wrap this up.
I just had a couple of logistical questions. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, when you guys are planning to close that round. I know you said like you raised like 1/3 of 1.5 mil. So do you
Yeah,
know
end of
when you're
July.
gonna close that round? End of July, and what kind of checks are you sort of looking to take? Is it gonna
Minimum
be
is
like
10K.
50? Okay.
But yeah, from angels, I mean, yeah, the angel, I kind of want to leave a lot of I mean, still accepting angel checks for sure, like still looking for good ones. But probably max, before max was like 50, I think I'm going to move max down to like 30 or maybe 25. Just because I know that like some funds, like for example, Foundation Capital, they say like if it's less than $1 million in the, like that we can invest in the main, then like it's not worth it for us. And I expect it's going to be pretty similar for like a lot of funds. So yeah.
And what's the sell? Like, where do you want to be at the end of the year?
We want to have onboarded 10 organizations, each doing 2 proposals per month. And I mean, yeah, that's end of the year. The sell long term, which I think this is like a long term asymmetric play, is building the decision market for the world's governance and decisions, which I think it's pretty unlikely that we're able to achieve that and then it not be like a very big financial outcome.
Oh, sounds good.
I can also send you, yeah, so like I've got a doc where we lay out the initial customers and then customers have to essentially like go to market. So yeah, I'll send that to you right after as well.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. I'll just reach out to all the people. I guess you've already reached out to everyone in crypto, so like it's probably gonna be like, yeah, some other angels.
I
or
haven't
they're
reached
not
out
in the
to
crypto
everyone in
market?
crypto. Probably like, I think I talked to maybe 30 different like funds / people. Maybe 40, I'm not
Have
sure.
you spoken to Balaji? Any chance?
Yeah, I have an email. I mean, so Akshay is angeling, and he gave me his email. And I sent him an email and then refollowed up, but haven't heard anything back. I'll probably refollow up again right after this because he would be amazing into this given like his kind of interest.
Awesome. I'll reach out to a bunch of people as well. So I'll just put you in touch, and then you can just email them anything else that they might need.
Awesome, really appreciate that.
Cool. Any other question? Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I will upload the recording to YouTube soon, and let's see each other next month.